I'm going to look at the 4 games today, but there's not going to be any 10-hour stories, Yasser style. I'm just going to look at the games. So it's going to be really boring. So you probably can leave now. The first game I'm going to look at is Grischuk versus Nepomniachtchi. And actually I was right, even though I didn't know I was right. There's a FIDE rule in this tournament. There's probably some percentage. Players from the same country can't play after round 10. So 11, 12, 13, 14, there's no violence between countrymen. And in this tournament, there's 3 players from Russia, these 2, and Alexenko. Alexenko's playing Nepomniachtchi tomorrow, and then that's the end of the all-Russian matchups. Why do the lines openings at top level falling out of fashion? It's fashion. That's what happens. Normally, not always, the world champion plays something that heretofore hadn't been played in a long time, and everybody's like, all right, I'll play that. That's what happens. If the world champion doesn't play it, then people are like, eh. But yeah, if Carlsen plays e4, c5, knight a3 tomorrow, and that's been played a lot, then it's going to become more popular. If it's something unpopular and Carlsen plays it and then he wins, it'll be popular. That's how it goes. JAA928 gave a gift to a grandmaster. Very good. It's Pam. Hey, Pam. Okay, now we're going to do game analysis, so I'm going to ignore the chat unless I hear a lot of noise. Yeah. Play some grandmasters today. Somebody doesn't understand the stream title. Yeah. Okay. So d4, and they played a Grunfeld, obviously, because that's what Nepomniachtchi does. Plays the Grunfeld. It's one of the main lines. Knight f3 is more modern than bishop c4. Rook b1. Rook b1 used to be my main weapon. It was my weapon of choice. But then Christopher Walken showed up, and I was embarrassed, so I stopped playing it. Also theory are bishop e3, and, I guess bishop e2's theory, and so forth. All right. And he put h3. h3 I don't know at all. The obvious advantages of rook b1 are the bishop is controlling is not attacking the rook, and the rook's putting pressure on the b pawn, making the bishop move not, so likely. The negative is this pawn's not defended, so often white sacrifices it. They trade on d4, and white plays queen a5 check and takes it. Then black has 2 connected passed pawns that aren't dangerous yet. So that's typically what's going to happen, is like bishop e2, and then take, queen here, or knight c6 first. So h3 I've never seen before. I don't know what that is. That seems like, my first thought is that's dumb, but, Grischuk's better than me, so it's just his preparation. Okay, so knight c6 is the most obvious, and then d5. Yeah, this pawn sacrifice is pretty well known after bishop e2 instead of h3. So for some reason, Grischuk thinks it's a better pawn sac when you play h3. Okay, and you don't have to take the pawn. You can play knight e5, but all right. Yeah, and this position I know, if the pawn's here and the bishop's here, then there's a lot of chess games. That's right, white always plays h4. Grandmaster Gus gifted a sub, hooray. So white's down a pawn, white has a nice rook, white has a nice center. I'm on Chess TV, so I can't say that. Damn. And, white potentially has an attack against black's king. Knight d4. My engine likes knight a5, but my engine sucks. Giving the pawn back. And he never takes it. Never! Bishop c4. Yeah. And then he defended his pawn. Grischuk doesn't know the en passant rule, I guess. So white's down a pawn, but this bishop doesn't have anywhere good to go. If the bishop did have somewhere good to go, he can't go there now. And this bishop is much better than this bishop. So it's about equal because the extra pawn doesn't matter very much, and white's going to play f4. The engine actually suggests g5. God damn. Stopping f4. Wow. I would play h4 against g5 against Grischuk. Okay, queen d6 is the normal move. Blockade the pawn. f4. And the engine slightly likes white. Rook b8, so he can play bishop d7 and not hang his pawn. Take takes. Now the d pawn on d4 is very weak. Queen f4, defending his pawn and attacking the queen. So queen trades forced. And even though white's down a pawn, Grischuk's playing for a win because this passed pawn is protected and this passed pawn's probably just going to be captured. And he also has double up on the bubble up and diagonal options. And again, the bishop, you know, and go here. But black's a pawn up for all the advantages white has, so it should be a draw. Rook e8. He attacked the rook. Doubled up on the bubble up, threatening f7. And this is a very nice Zwischenzug. In fact, Spencer likes it. It's a Spencer. So if you take the pawn, you lose your bishop. And if you take the bishop, rook takes, defends the pawn. So this is a really nice move, bishop d7. He always retreated. The engine prefers going back because the bishop will get harassed on the c file. And then he kept going back. Bishop b5. He could have tried a5, a4. After a5, you know, because a4 is annoying. Bishop has to go here. Boo. If you play d6 to threaten this, then bishop e6. And, you know, this pawn's attacked. 2 against 1, 1 against 0. And the engine says this is equal to, because we're going to do a lot of trading. He played bishop b5, attacking the rook. And then he played a5. And now, obviously, you could play rook takes f7. And every move is equal according to the engine. But he played d6, which is more spectacular. Really trying to win. And bishop c4 makes sense. And this was the move that surprised everybody. And some people thought it was great, and some people thought it was terrible. And the answer is, it's not a good move theoretically, but maybe practically it is. Yeah, if you just take this and take this, the computer says it's all zeros because, you know, all these pawns are weak. It's 2 rooks each. But Grischuk went for it. Rook takes f7, confusing the audience. And Nepomniachtchi had facial expressions that made him look stranger than usual, which heretofore all the top scientists said that wasn't possible. I asked them, I said, could Nepomniachtchi look any stranger? And they said, no. But then when this move happened, he did look stranger. It was unbelievable. He got a call after this game to star on the show Stranger Things. Yeah, Nepo was like, say, what? So, you know, an engine's an engine, so it takes the rook because it takes a rook. And then, you know, white takes back with the rook, threatening discovered everything. And then he's got 2 pawns, what else? But the engine says, no. And it says black is better after this. And, you know, Nepomniachtchi probably thought a long time about it. And Hess and Wrench were analyzing. And they thought bishop f7 was the right way to try to play for a win. And Grischuk is just always playing for a win because he's right. And a lot of people thought Grischuk did something dumb yesterday when he lost to Dronning to Alexenko, but he has to win. Drawing doesn't, you have to understand 2nd and 8th are the same. You have to win the tournament. And you know, drawing Alexenko, he's not going to win the tournament. So he has to just win every game. No draws. So rook bishop takes c4 was sort of a boring draw. They trade everything, and this is exciting. Maybe Nepomniachtchi will blunder and he'll win. But it's a risky decision because after this, he's probably worse. Okay, so he did this, which is just a dead draw. I mean, there's no pawns left. Yeah, everybody takes everybody's pawns. Yeah. So that's, and you know, and I mean, the players were in time trouble, but it didn't matter because they were just taking pawns. Then instead of agreeing to a draw, they repeated, which is what you're supposed to do. It says white played rook e4, but I don't believe that. I think they put the kings in the middle, and it didn't register, and I thought he played rook e4. I'm guessing he went here, or they agreed to a draw here, or claimed a draw. I don't know. I could have played here. It's a strange move when you're repeating. So, both players at different points of the game had an advantage, but I don't think either player had a winning advantage. And again, in theory, when any game is drawn in the candidates, both players should be unhappy. Both. Because the only reason to play in the candidates is to win it and then play Magnus. That's why you're playing in the candidates. So every game that you draw means you're not playing for the World Championship. Somebody's going to play for the World Championship. And Magnus, thanks Video Game Pianist for rating. Magnus correctly pointed out, I think, that of the 8 players in the tournament right now, the top 4 in the standings could win and the bottom 4 can't. I agree with that. The top 4, Nepomniachtchi is in clear first, half a point ahead of MVL, Caruana, and Geary. Those are the 4 who could win the tournament. The other 4 can't. I don't disagree with that.